to Sticking to the Truth with Julene Jackson and Debbie Jansen. We are two motor-mouth mama bears willing to discuss current events with honesty and boldness. We will always stick to the truth. Hi, Julene. So glad to see you today.
Hello. How are you, Deb?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Well, it is a snowstorm in Washington, D.C., so school was canceled. So we all slept in, and I kind of like to hunker down when it's cold outside.
Oh, I do too. Hot chocolate and sit by the window and watch it snow.
Yeah.
Okay, Julene. I'm excited to stick to the truth as we talk about Christian free speech today. How about telling us what you think about that?
Well, Debbie, are you a football fan? Did you watch the Super Bowl on Sunday?
I'm not, but I did watch, especially toward the end. So
Yeah.
I was
Well,
excited about what you're going to talk about.
well, we were on an airplane of all places during the Super Bowl, but with modern technology, you can watch the Super Bowl
Yeah.
30,000 feet above the ground. And it seemed like everyone on that plane had the TV on and was watching the Super Bowl. And I'm not a really, big football fan, but I was scrolling my feed and I was getting so many reels and little interviews about the players, the pre-Super Bowl interviews that they did that week, and how they, so many of them bore testimony, and the coaches included, of their beliefs in Jesus Christ. I mean, it was beautiful. Even, the Eagles head coach, after he won the game, and they bring the coach and some of the players on the field and they interview them. And the coach said, look, the reason why we're here, the reason why God has blessed us and given us these talents is because of him. And he said, so first and foremost, I want to thank him. I want to thank you, Jesus, and so that kind of stops you in your track. Because
Yeah, it
it
does.
wasn't just a small little thank you, God, but I mean, it's like he bore witness of why he was there. And then I saw so many little pre-interview clips of the Eagles and the Chiefs really speaking boldly about their Christian beliefs and prioritizing their faith, and how that they're using it really as a platform to glorify God. And then I saw both of the quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes from the Eagles and the Chiefs, boldly declaring that he was the center of their life in everything that they did. And so it was just really affirming. We're both Christians, Deb, and it just makes us feel like the muzzle has been loosened. For so long
Exactly.
it has been offensive or hurtful to talk about God. And it was just really powerful to see, some of the best athletes in the world bear witness. And it was such a contrast. Did you watch the halftime show?
No, I did not see that.
I couldn't even make sense of, I didn't even know who it was, first of all. It was a
Well,
rapper.
yeah, they were showing some of it later, and I was like, is this the halftime? This doesn't look like it. But I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw some clips of it. And yeah, it was kind of
Well,
odd.
initially I'm like, oh, okay, he's modestly dressed, because sometimes the performers are hanging out of their costumes, or having
Yeah.
malfunctions and showing bare breasts kind of thing in the past. But and all the performers were in red, white, and blue and suits, and I'm like, okay, well, they seem to be modest, even though I couldn't understand a thing that he said, and then as I afterwards I read kind of some of his commentary. It really was an anti-American statement. Instead of the show, it was more of a statement. And then, did you see, maybe you didn't, Uncle Sam at the beginning and at the end, who was portrayed Samuel Jackson, the famous actor, really said some insulting things that were a complete diss to President Trump. And so I just am like, how in the world did the NFL allow them to hijack the show? I mean, Deb, don't you
Yeah,
think
really.
we need like a good country singer who is going to talk about God and his mama and his truck? I mean, that's
Yeah.
going to be more reflective of viewers, that watch football, and certainly
When,
the mood of the players. I'm like, I'm like,
yeah.
we're getting the shows wrong. We need some country singers,
But
don't you think?
I think things are changing, Julene, because what I did see was a lot of clips of what happened when they played the national anthem and Trump saluted. The
Yes.
crowd went wild. Then I think they said a while later, it was in that same time frame, but what's her name? Taylor Swift. They had her on the Jumbotron and everyone was booing. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I would boo anybody, but it kind of lets you know where the crowd was.
Right.
The crowd was there and wanting to be American and Christian, and here we go.
Yes.
Let's play ball and let's have fun. That's
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
what I got.
the media can tell you as much as, as they can, but that didn't lie, right? The
No,
cheering,
no.
the patriotism, the electricity that, we felt when they showed the president all that he represents, and then kind of the woke Hollywood symbol of Taylor Swift. And I don't know anything about her. I don't follow her, but I thought that was very revealing. But Deb, I'm telling you, there is a shift, and you can feel it in this country, that people are feeling like we've been silenced for so long about our beliefs in God, and President Trump is leading out. I mean, just last Friday, I don't know if you know that he attended a prayer breakfast in the Capitol with some of our leaders, and he spoke so beautifully. He talked about, the earliest days of our country and how faith in
Yeah.
our God was our greatest strength, and how we've got to bring religion back to this country. I mean, he said it has been one of our biggest
Wow.
problems. And
Wow,
then,
that's great.
he evoked some of the great, founders of our past, John Winthrop, one of our Pilgrim governors, who said that this nation, this new world, would be a light on a hill, and how Roger Williams, who founded Rhode Island and built the First Baptist Church, we have a nation of
Yeah,
faith.
yeah.
And he would talked about, have you heard he's going to build a new national park and entitle it the Garden of American Heroes, the Great American Garden of
Oh, I
American
think that's
Heroes.
wonderful.
I wonder where
Oh my goodness.
where's that going to be? And then he talked more about that assassination attempt, how if he hadn't have turned to the right to show that immigration chart, he would have died. And he said, I don't normally use that chart, about 1 in every 5 times in the rallies. But he said God knew what he was doing. And just that moment, as I turned, the bullet whizzed by him. And it said it changed something in him that he had always believed, but he just feels stronger now about God in
Oh,
his life.
wow.
And that we have to make religion more of an important factor. And he said, look,
Yeah,
you can't be happy in life without religion. We've got to
yeah.
get God back into our lives. Can you imagine the president of the United States boldly declaring that witness and testimony? It's awesome.
That is phenomenal. And I hate to say it, but that's what a lot of pastors need to hear. Because for a long time, even with the public being scared to speak out, our pastors have just coiled in.
Yeah.
And, oh, we don't want to say that, and we don't want to say this, and we want to be careful in the pulpit. No, you've got to stand for truth.
Yeah.
And I am just so excited that we are finally getting to the point to where people are going to say, no, I have freedom of speech, and I'm going to say what I want.
Yeah.
It has really bothered me that for such a long time, American citizens have been afraid to speak their mind. Now, we're friends, and you know this about me. It's hard to get me to shut up when I know I have something important to say. But even I was intimidated on social media because I just didn't want to get into a fight with somebody. It's not that I was afraid to speak up. Those fights zap your energy and take up a lot of time, and I just didn't want to handle it. People who didn't know me seemed to feel compelled to chop away at my self-esteem and try to punish me for my opinions, and I'm not having that. I'm so glad that Americans are finally willing to speak up and voice their opinion, because as a group, the more of us do that, the more other people will just be quiet. And we need to be honest, especially about God and gender and all the other stuff that we've had problems with. I think we feel like we don't have to hide now. Last night, I was at Sam's Club grabbing a few groceries real quick, and even the clerk wanted to talk about Trump. And I said, well, I don't know how you feel. And she said, oh, I'm going to tell you, we like Trump. And I said, okay, then I do too. And we had a nice little conversation. I love the executive order about anti-Christian bias. We need to get rid of that. We need to have true free speech in America. It feels like we have the right to free speech and Christian beliefs now, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it feels like truth is prevailing. And it's been, we've been silenced, we've been censored, we've been shadow banned for so long, and truth is getting out there again. I mean, one of the most fundamental truths that the president declared in his swearing-in speech on his inaugural day was that, look, there's two genders, male and female. And that is a truth that God, established very clearly in his word, that gender is an essential characteristic, and it was given to us in the heavens. There are two genders, not this alphabet soup of sexual identities that have just taken off, the last several years. So me and my daughter had the opportunity last week to go to the White House for the executive order signing of taking men out of women's sports. And what an experience. I mean, whenever you get an opportunity to go to the White House, that's going to be an exciting day, right? And I actually
so excited for you guys. So excited.
And so, they had like 75 women on behind him, of mamas and grandmothers and teenagers and young girls, and the younger girls had their little sports uniforms on. My daughter wore she's on the basketball team in high school, so she wore her basketball jersey, and boy, her school was so proud. But Trump came out, and the room was packed, all kind of senators and Congress people and people in his administration. His press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, was right in front of me, and she's a young, really rising star. A star is born, President Trump said about her. She's a mother. She has an 8-month-old baby. But, he said the war on women's sports is over. He said it's kind of ridiculous we're even having to sign an executive order that takes men out of women's sports. He said it should not just be common sense that we shouldn't have men in women's sports, but he said we're doing this to protect the safety and fairness and dignity of female athletes. And it was great. He spoke for like 25 minutes. He's very clever. He's very funny, actually. So my little 17-year-old, initially she's like, Mom, I'm not sure if I want to go. The day before, when I told her of this opportunity, she's like, some of my liberal friends, might not like me. And she was just a little nervous and worried. And I was like, you're going. Get your jersey ready. And so she went, and then, as we were talking in the Uber home, we just live about 20 minutes from the White House. I live in D.C. And she said, I don't know how people can say that they're for women's rights or protecting girls, and then they allow men who are bigger and stronger to take away, girls' opportunity to compete, or to take away their titles or their medals. And it was cute that night after it was all said and done, because she was right on the front row, like right next to
I saw her on TV.
Riley Gaines, the cute little swimmer girl who was the first really athlete to rise up and say, this isn't right. That man took my medal and this isn't right. And so, I mean, I had girlfriends from Europe texting me saying, I think I saw your daughter on TV next to Trump. And so, both she and I were there. I was on one side, she was on the other. And so that night when we came home, she's like, Mom, thank you so much. She said, I'm sorry I gave you a hard time. She said, it feels good to, stand on the right side, the side of truth. And so it was really awesome to be there and to be a part of that, and to feel, that our president is a godly man. He upholds godly truths and ideals.
Yes, he does. And he's just honest. He's just telling you the truth, which I like that. I'm so glad you both were able to go. What an exciting time. Oh, my goodness, Julene, you have an exciting life. And I'm thrilled that Trump was able to sign that order. To me, it's just common sense. I know you feel that way, too. it's easy. And this is what I don't get. I do a lot of research. I don't accept anything as truth just because somebody told me, because first thing I'm going to say is, well, how do you know? And I want the evidence. I want to see the evidence. So it's easy to look up the medical information and see that while hormones and surgeries change the way a person looks, nothing, no drug, no surgery, nothing can change a person's DNA. And that's the truth. So a male will naturally continue to perform differently than a female. It makes no sense whatsoever to have them compete with each other. And on a personal side, I don't understand why people want to do that anyway. They're just listening to the crowd. They're not paying attention to what all these surgeries and drugs are going to do to their body. Because once you get on the drugs, you're on it for the rest of your life. And it can cause depression and it can make you sick. And I have heard stories where it actually deteriorates the bones and people have to wear braces and stuff just to get their fingers to kind of move because their bones are deteriorating. It is horrible stuff. And then you add on top of that, some people I know that have done that have expressed that their trans experience was not what they thought it would be. Mm-hmm. It did not help them. And there's a lot of people who try to transfer back. Mm-hmm. Why not just accept who you are and learn to thrive in your own skin? I've had a weight problem my whole life, so I know that people tell us, fat people, to be proud of who we are and just to be proud of our skin and embrace who we are. But when a confused teen comes along, they don't say that. Instead, they want doctors and counselors to lie to the child and the parent. And to me, that is just so sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, it's been a really dangerous experiment that we're conducting on our most vulnerable, our young people, to tell them these lies. And I really think at the heart of it is, you know, these conspiring hearts of pharmaceutical industries. I mean, this is going to ensure they will make billions and billions of dollars off of this lie that, you know, if you're a girl but you feel like a boy, okay, you're a boy. You know, and you must take our, you know, medicines for the rest of your life, but that will ensure that you will, you know, you will find joy and happiness in life. And that we know is a lie, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's the father of all lies who really, when, you know, he wants us to believe these things because as we believe him, we give him our power. We give him our peace, right? Look, God has made very clear. There is a male and female. In scripture, in Holy Writ, he lays it out in the very beginning of Genesis. A man is to leave his family and to cleave into his wife, and they're to be one. And he says, look, neither is man without the woman, nor the woman without man. That is God's truth, right? That is the pattern. He sets it very clearly. You know, the one who created us knows us best. He knows how we will be our most happy.
Absolutely.
And our highest and holiest self when we follow the Creator's, you know, plan. And so, you know, I just teach my kids that, look, if you will follow the Creator, follow the Lord, then he will give you, you know, power and peace. When you follow the father of lies, he takes your power. He takes your peace. And we have seen that play out in the last few years, that this dangerous experiment is not bearing good fruit at all.
No, it's not. And I tell you what, I am glad we are starting down a different path. Yeah. So let's switch the topic for a second. Yesterday, I watched Trump and Elon Musk holding a press conference in the Oval Office. It was great. Elon's son was with him. He was so cute and very well behaved. It reminded me of the prayer I've prayed for almost 9 years, though, because as I listened to both of them talk and watch that sweet little child being a good, disciplined little boy, I remembered that for 9 years, I end a lot of my meal prayers and other prayer times with, Dear Jesus, please let truth be revealed all across this country. let truth be revealed. And just like the truth in the gender situation, because you're exactly right about that, Julene, is being revealed, I believe that truth all across this country and all kinds of areas is being revealed. I am so sick and tired of politicians trying to cover up their ugly deeds, take advantage of the American people, and do all they can to ruin our citizens. I am tired of that. I just want the truth about what's going on, especially with our money, so we can fix it and get on with our beautiful lives that God wants to give us. So listening to Elon give a lecture about economics and then explain how bad the deep rot of waste and fraud have become, I started tearing up. I said, oh, thank goodness we can stop living by these lies or trying to work around the lies. I thought, dear Jesus, my prayers are being answered. It's easy to see now why our country is in such a mess. And then to watch the Dems blow up because they don't want us to know about their dirty deeds, that's despicable. They look childish and ridiculous. And don't anybody dare tell me that you want democracy, and yet at the same time you insist that I have no right to know where you're spending our money. Don't say you're going to fight for this country when the only fight you want is to hide what you're doing. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
What do you think, Julene?
Well, I live in Washington, D.C., just a half a mile outside of D.C. So, I mean, I can be in, D.C. in 1 second, really, just a minute. And many people are losing their jobs right now around me, or they're fearful. There's a lot of bureaucrats, right, in Washington, D.C. This is lifelong governmental employees or officials. And bureaucrats are known to be concerned with procedural matters or even self-preservation at the expense even of our nation, right? They want to just make sure that they're going to be in kind of the comforts of their job and being taken care of. And as you study the founding of our nation, look, our founders never intended our federal government to be an employment agency. Now, in Washington, D.C., the government is the biggest employer of the District of Columbia. And so for 4 years, the employees of federal workers really have not had to go into work. They've been able to work from home for the most part. So tons of office buildings in these agencies have by and large been vacant. And so Trump is just basically saying, hey, I now want you to come back to work. And if you don't want to, I will give you 8 months salary. You can start looking for a job and we will pay you 8 months your full salary. Now, to me, that sounds reasonable, beyond reasonable and fair. But, when our founding fathers said in articles or amendments 9 and 10, they wanted only limited and carefully defined powers to be given to the federal government, and all other were to be relegated to the states and to the people, that they knew that strong local government was the keystone to freedom. So what President Trump and Elon Musk and the Doge is trying to do is just keep with our founding principles, to shrink this bloated bureaucracy, to keep it limited and carefully defined, and to send all the other issues back to the states to determine how they're going to settle them and pay for them and that kind of thing. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that's what will make America great.
Oh, me too, me too, me too. Now, for all our listeners, we'll try to put the link down below. But please go to YouTube and watch the entire interview with Elon, his son, and Trump. I think they went for about 35, 40 minutes and just answering questions back and forth. And I loved it when Elon explained the link between solvency and democracy. He explained how quickly America can go bankrupt if we don't get our finances in control. And that's going to be horrible for everybody. It's a fascinating lecture for the press, and I don't know how any sane person could listen to his discussion and still be against what he's doing. We are running out of time today. I wish we could go another 30, 40 minutes, but I do want to bring up a couple of things real fast for you to watch out for. I thought it was funny, but not. when he talked about a woman who was getting Social Security, and according to her birthday, she was 150 years old. And he's made a joke out of it. He said, now she could be around and she could be okay, but then she'd be in the Guinness Book of Records. And he said, I'm pretty sure I'm safe in saying at 150 she's gone, and we need to stop that payment. And I was laughing at that. And then he talked about a mine shaft where they put retirement papers from the government has to go through people. It's all on paper. And so they have this huge mine, I forget where it was, that they have 700 people working on getting government employees retired and filling out the paperwork by hand. And you can only do about 10,000 a month. And he said there's actually about 40,000 a month that should be retiring. So they keep receiving their money because we haven't retired them yet. And then there's this picture of a mine shaft. I couldn't believe it. Here we have this guy who does all this technology, and he was kind of shaking his head. I would love to know what was going on in his head.
Yeah. You know, Deb, you would think people would be happy about exposing corruption and waste, but, you know, that's not the case. I just had lunch yesterday with a gal who lives in Washington, D.C., and she was kind of complaining that her poor little neighbor is really worried about losing his job. And I said, well, how long has he worked for the government? Well, oh, his whole life, she said. I said, how old is he? She said, 70. And I'm thinking he should have retired like years ago. I mean, the government has propped so many people up and kind of kept them fat and happy. And now they're completely in shock that, you know, that might be cut off. And so, you know, it's just interesting the different reactions that you're getting.
Yeah. Well, I want to take just a few minutes to talk to our liberal friends because we love them all. Julian, I know you have liberal friends. I do too. I have a lot of friends that disagree with me about the Democrat platform. But what I'm most saddened about is the bully tactics and the digging into lies, even when Democrats, and I'm talking about those like the politicians that came out and wanted to protest against Trump and people that file lawsuits and all. I'm worried about the lies that they produce when they know that what they're promoting doesn't even work. All American citizens should want to know the truth about what actually works. We should vote and promote and live by truth because that is what will make us successful. Lies will always derail success. I'm appalled by the Democrats and their leadership that wants to fight for fraud, waste, and pure evil. They should be just as welcoming as most conservatives to know the truth. All this protesting and pulling tricks to stop investigation, it looks like childish bullies in a high school throwing a temper tantrum. We know they're lying. It's not about the Constitution or our democracy. It's all about their pitiful attempt to hold on to power and to hide any evil they are doing. Please, please, my dear friends, don't believe them because their lies will hurt you too. They are lying to you. It's their childish way to say, I'm important, and hopefully I can convince you to follow me down this failing path. They do not care about you or your struggles or your life. So don't believe the lies. What do you say, Julene?
I think that's beautiful. And I think the best way, once again, to discern, you know, the lies is to go to the source of truth, right? Go to the source of truth. You go to the word. You get back to looking to God for your freedoms, for your solutions, for your deliverance, not government programs or, you know, the counselors or the therapies or the medications, or you get on your knees and you go to God and then you open the word and you begin to study and you begin to, you know, hang with like-minded people that are trying to know the truth as well, that are wanting to study and learn from the ultimate source of truth. And, you know, that kind of takes me to my tip of the day, Deb, that did you know today is Abraham Lincoln's birthday? February
I was thinking about
12th. Happy birthday.
that. Happy
Our
birthday.
16 beautiful. I mean, that's one of my most favorite spots in Washington, D.C. is that Lincoln Memorial there in Washington, D.C. Well, in the summer, we love to take a little dinner, and then we sit on the steps and we overlook that reflecting pond, and beautiful quotes are immortalized in stone at that
Oh,
memorial
wow.
there. And I love how he said, my concern is not whether God is, on our side. My greatest concern is, are we on God's side? Because God is always right. Not, oh, is God with us, but are we with God? And it makes me think that, when God speaks and we listen and we follow, we will always be right. We won't ever have to worry about being deceived. And, that's going to take some course correction on our part in life, right? And some
Right, right.
contrition. Contrition leads to change. And so I heard someone say, God can make beauty for ashes, even if we start the fire,
Yeah,
that if
yeah.
we are humble and willing to be taught, he can make our mistakes into something beautiful, right? And
Exactly.
so my tip is, hey, let's not be worried about if God is going to be with us. Let's worry about, are we with God? And if we are with him, we will be right, and we will have the ability to discern the lies, and we won't need to be deceived and confused and worried.
I love it. I love it. That is the best tip of today. But my tip is don't miss the train. Too many unsuccessful people miss great opportunities in life because they can't say, I was wrong. They can't admit, I shouldn't have backed that program. And they can't walk away when something is failing. Don't be afraid of the truth. Once you find out something isn't working, stop. The only way out of a hole is to stop digging. Don't keep pushing for something that will never give you a better life. Be tough on your projects and work to make them the best. See them with fresh eyes and the strong arm of truth, even if it means you have to tear it down and start over. Be willing to find the successful course you need to take. And this tip isn't just for business. It's also for the way you live and the way you practice your faith. Trust God, like Julene said, and be willing to change if you need to. Don't miss the train. Thank you for being with us today. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic by writing Debbie at debbiejansen.com. Thanks again to our wonderful producer, Ken Jansen. This is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Julia Jackson, and we hope you keep sticking to the truth. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.